We are live.
We are live, yes. And welcome to Nanny Bubby's Facebook page and into Nanny Bubby's kitchen. So I am trying to just, if you'll give me just a minute, because I do not have the Zoom. There we are. Okay. Welcome, Yael Trusch to Nanny Bubby's kitchen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be in your kitchen.
I know, this is it. This is the real kitchen where magic happens every day for my family and certainly for my Facebook group and people that tune in. And
should I have gone to my kitchen? Should I have been doing this in my kitchen?
You're in your office, which is where you are very, very comfortable, very comfortable. Are your kids still locked down? So I often find that we need to just chat it up just a little bit. Unfortunately, in fact, I just want to grab my iPad because it'll be just a few minutes till people start joining in. All of a sudden they come running, but they type things, and on the Zoom Facebook, you can't see what they're.
Look at it on your phone.
Right. So hold on 1 minute here.
I'm actually gonna go onto your page to see who's been logging in.
Okay.
Super. Yeah, it would have been fun for me to be in my kitchen, but then you will see my entire gang of beautiful children.
And how many do you have, Yael?
I have 4, but I currently have 3 living at home. I have 1 away in boarding school. And they are devouring my delicious dinner, I have to say.
Well, there we go. Okay. So I've got it now. I've got the tune in.
I see us.
Okay. All right. So Yael, I'm so excited about this because we talked about this. And just so people know, Yael and I are in a business group together, and we've been having a lot of conversations about our businesses.
Hello, Colette. Sorry.
Oh, Colette is there. Oh, that's so great. That is just awesome. Awesome. Okay. I still can't see who's there. So anyway, you tell me who joins because I love to say hello. All right.
Hello.
I'm getting my my digital experience here. So this is getting better and better all the time. But Yael and I are in a business group together, and we've had many conversations about our businesses and what we're doing. And she has a podcast called, an award-winning podcast actually, called The Jewish Latin Princess, which is certainly a play on words, but it certainly describes her to a T because she's from Puerto Rico. And she is a money coach, and she was in the finance business for a long time. And I really want to say this, Yael, I've been at so many luncheons and different things, and somebody gets up and reads a bio, right? Reads a bio on someone, and yet in that bio is where the magic of your life began. And so they're reading this very antiseptically, and the heart and the soul of what happened in that bio just kind of gets passed over, and then they introduce you onto stage and then you speak. But, you know, it's like that dash of things between the commas where your magic began. So just give us a little bio on you.
So true. So yes, I am the host of the podcast Jewish Latin Princess. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a money coach. I've been teaching Jewish spirituality, Jewish wisdom connected to all things women, and blogging about it and teaching about it for a very long time. And only till about maybe 2 years ago did I realize that where I really wanted to be helping women specifically infuse that Jewish wisdom that I always infused into, I always weaved it into everything, whether it be the kitchen or our art or our businesses or our marriages or whatever. Where I really wanted to be helping was a particular pain point regarding their relationship with money and their finances. And it was so eye-opening to me, and you'll appreciate this process, Marla, because I kept identifying different pain points that people have. One was in their marriage, one was in their parenting, one was with their food, and one was with their money. I'm a pretty great mother, but I don't want to be talking about parenting all the time. I have a great relationship with my husband. I have a lot to say about marriage, comes in a lot when I talk about money. I know nothing about food other than I've been told I have a really healthy relationship with food, and I think I do. And we could probably connect those to money, our relationship with money, because I think they're very connected. But I don't have any, I never had a pain point around food, so I couldn't speak to that. But when it came to money, not only did I have my financial background as an MBA and as having been in the corporate space, working in investment banking. I also have a bachelor's in economics and so on and so forth. But I also had a lot of setbacks in my financial life and times where there was an abundance of money and times where things were harder. And I learned a lot along the way. And I always found that it was my Jewish wisdom that really moved the needle and shifted things for us financially. And it just made such a difference. And whenever I started talking about it, people were like, wait, I want to hear more. Like, what are you talking about? Like I could approach my money in this way. And I'm like, sure, I'll give you more. And I realized that's where the magic of the conversation happens. So I have a lot of fun with it. I teach a lot of women about this. And of course, I host this wonderful podcast, which is not always about money necessarily, but in which I get to interview the world's most uniquely talented Jewish women and show people how they serve the world with their God-given talents. And it's so fun.
And you're so good. You are so good. I really have to say it truly is one of my most favorite podcasts. Now I listen religiously, no pun intended. And because you are entertaining and you're very quick, at asking those questions, which obviously everybody can see now. You've got a lot of energy behind you. You're a real powerhouse. I brought this up, Yael, in our Instagram promo. And I really want to go back through it because this idea that, when the world became free love in the 60s, which you were not around to see, but I was, and, suddenly the entire world started talking about sex and sex was no longer taboo. And people would speak about just everything, who, what, when, suddenly things in the bedroom all came out and everything was open. And as a society, we're all talking sex. It's you see it on TV, when I grew up on TV, people were still sleeping in twin beds, right? Lucy, I Love Lucy was still, they were in twin beds. But what I noticed as we evolved as a society, there is one area that we have not evolved open about, which is money. So you will have somebody at a dinner party sit down and suddenly start talking about their sex life with their husband. But if you ask them what their value system is about their money or any word about money, can't talk about that, right? Can't share that information. It's too personal.
They've done such studies. They've asked people, would you rather speak about religion or money? Religion. Would you rather speak about politics or money? Politics. Would you rather speak about your intimate life or money? Sex life, hands down.
So what is in that? Why is that? Why is it that money is such a emotional, personal, under the carpet kind of thing?
So I think you actually just nailed the how do you say it in English? You nailed you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head right there. The way you asked the question. So the first thing to say there is, I think we have this misunderstanding because, again, it's not a very talked about topic, even at home as growing up. For most people, it wasn't something we learned by osmosis, by watching our parents' relationship with money. There's this understanding that money is math, numbers, calculators, spreadsheets. And all of a sudden we grow up and at some point you're going to have to face your money and you're going to have conversations about your money with your roommate, your boyfriend, your spouse, your girlfriend, I don't know, right? And all of a sudden it doesn't feel comfortable and we don't know where that comes from because nobody ever told us there were emotions that we've been processing and learning since childhood related to that thing that is a very neutral thing called money. And so it feels so uncomfortable that then we coil and we'd rather not talk about it. So that's one piece of it. There's also the idea that I purposely said this neutral thing. I think in general, for whatever reason, that's not my philosophy. And I'm coming to everything that I do from a Jewish perspective, okay? We've attached some negative connotation to something that is completely neutral, okay? According to the wisdom that I follow and I live by, money is a resource that God put in the world, which could be used for good, it could be elevated, or the opposite, just like your sexuality, just like your food, just like everything that God gives you in the world. There are certain things that you can't elevate, but most in general, these things, here, take it. They're yours. Now, show me what you can do with them. You have free will. You can use it for good or not. So for some reason, we approach money from the sense that it's greedy. People who have money are greedy. People who have money are bad. People who have money are corrupt. Like, we attach all this value system, all these connotations to something that if we were really rational, we would see that there's plenty of evidence of people who have a lot of money who are amazing ambassadors of that money. And there's people who have a lot of money who are really bad people. And there's people who don't have any money who are great human beings. And there's people who don't have a lot of money who are not such great human beings. And in fact, if we even think about it, most people who do a lot of good in the world, really, they do it with a lot of money, right? The people who really contribute, they have a lot of money that they put into it. Yes, there are people who don't use it for good. So again, it's just, I think there's a first shift in perspective that we all need to make. And that is that it's just a neutral tool. Now, when I have it, because I'm a great person, then that means I'm going to use it for good. So it's better be with you than with somebody else.
Right. And so let's narrow that focus on that neutral and that relationship with money, because we're talking food, right? Nanny Bubby is all about food and nourishing, not feeding my family, and hopefully inspiring you to do the same, while at the same time giving yourself grace and finding a few quick ways when you're running really late in a day to help yourself put a nourishing meal together. But I am very big on organics. And I always like to say that, you do yourself a lot of good when you eat organically. Now there's, definitely judgments out there that, it's just a marketing tool. It's a this, it's a that. And that may be true. But for the most part, when you're eating from the earth with as little pesticide as possible, that is much better for your health. And I just want to add this, is that when we can get 17% of the American population demanding and requesting organic foods, the entire farming industry has to convert 100%. Because that demand of 17% of all of us. So I want to do my part and help get that percentage up to 17%. But, and this really is a but. I always like to say and instead of but for many, this is a but. It is, but organics are so much more expensive. I have a budget for my food and I just can't fit it into my budget. You say what?
So I have a very strong opinion on this, and I'll still give a caveat. And then I want us to circle back to the relationship that we have with our food and the relationship we have with our money, because you said something that really ties that together. So my take on this is like this. I always say to people, your financial statements are value statements. So if somebody would open, in the olden days, it would be your checkbook, right? Your balance, right? If somebody would look at your bank statements and if somebody would see how you allocate your money, how you invest that money, and they don't know you, what would they be able to say about you, right? And the same thing with our calendar, by the way, right? The way we invest our time says something about our value system. Unfortunately, if you ask most people what their values are, we kind of say some things like family, self-growth, community, right? We say things that are really, really meaningful. The problem is most of us assume that we actually live by those values. We assume that that is reflected in our behaviors. But unfortunately, if we looked at our financial statements and our calendars, that might not actually be reflected there. So I think it's actually very interesting we're having this conversation during this time of the pandemic, because one of the things that has come to the fore for all of us is that our real values, the things that are really, really, really important in our lives, are right in front of us. There's no more facades. There's no more like, I have to keep up with the Joneses or whatever Facebook and Instagram tells us. No, like it's so raw and real for us already what these things are, which comes back to your work. family, continuity, relationships, self-growth, health. I mean, these are the real things that we stand by no matter what. And so I think it's a great time for us to say, am I living in alignment with those values? And is my money actually supporting those values? And these are hard conversations, but I think it's a perfect time for us to do that introspection and think about that and look at our numbers and say, what might have to shift? What might have to shift?
Right. And this is not only a relationship with your family and what you're holding close to you, but it's a relationship with yourself. So let me say this about that, but just say pandemic one more time, because that is like, with your accent, that was the biggest word I've ever heard in my life. Just say pandemic one more time.
Pandemic.
It was beautiful.
Okay.
With that accent, it was lovely. It was like just floated like a butterfly through the air. It was beautiful.
Should I say in Spanish? Should I say it in Spanish?
Yeah. How do you say it in Spanish?
Pandemia.
Oh, pandemia.
You like that?
Said, yeah, but you said pain and you caught, like you turned that accent over. But anyway, at this point, I read something this morning which said that there is absolute concrete evidence that you will bolster your immunity system, not with this drink or this vitamin or that vitamin, but by eating 7 to 9 different, like if you want to bolster your immunity, not just keep up the status quo, which is 2 to 3, vegetables a day, right? And 1 fruit and 3 vegetables, that's a maintenance. But 7 to 9 servings of bright colored vegetables. So
amazing.
Like chard, rainbow chard is, pink and yellow and green, and kale and romaine lettuce and tomatoes. And when you walk in your kitchen and you want a snack, don't go for the goldfish, and don't give your kids the goldfish, right? Give them a little cherry tomato. And that one thing will bolster your immunity so that at the end of this pandemic, you are still here. So those who love are still here.
I love that you said that, because even though we started saying about organic and people might get nervous that, well, that's so expensive, maybe I can't afford that. First of all, if we take a long-term view, very clearly, if you value your health, eat better. However, having said that, the way you said it, it's make better choices and you'll better food choices. And I'm a firm believer that God gave us in the world exactly what we need. And those fruits and vegetables, that has obviously what's best for us. You love this, but you said about giving your kids goldfish. In our home, when we have fruits, which is quite often, and we obviously have vegetables, but particularly with the fruit, we'll like grab a plum or grab an apple or whatever. And my husband and I will automatically say God's candy. And my kids grew up thinking fruit, it's God's candy. And it's so delicious because it is.
It is. It definitely is. But I do want to tell you about this research, which is why I really am pushing the organics, and why, I mean, 2 things. Number one, you pay a lot of money in copays. You pay a lot of money in going for blood tests. You pay a lot of extra money in a year for medical that may be happening because of your choices of what you're eating. So there's a very famous doctor whom I love and adore. You may have heard Kathy speak about him. His name is Dr. Zach Bush. He began in the hospice arena, but he's gone into cancer research. And in his cancer research, he found that there is a mineral in carrots that actually eats the cancer cells, causes them to go away. But when he brought carrots into his research, that mineral was no longer in the carrots. And he could not understand why, couldn't understand why. And through his research, what he learned is that that mineral was in the soil. So if you are spraying that soil and not farming that soil in the proper way, it doesn't grow the items that we need to be healthy with. In fact, they are lacking most of the minerals. So no, any old carrot that you buy is just not a carrot. And by the way, I do just want to say this particular doctor, Dr. Zach Bush, in 2016 predicted that the next pandemic in the world would begin in the Hubei province of China. Now, why? And Wuhan is in the Hubei province, okay? But he pointed to the Hubei province in 2016, and they asked him why. Why does he think it's going to start there? And he said, because the highest use of glyphosate, which is also known on the market as Roundup, it's a pesticide, it's a weed killer, it's a bug killer. The highest use of glyphosate in the world is happening in that Hubei province. Wow. And that pesticide is airborne, and so it is affecting humans as well as nature. So vegetable, etc. So this is why I'm so big on organics, and why I really want us to align our values with as much organic eating as we possibly can.
Yeah, and you have a very valid point. Listen, the bottom line is that it's the long-term effects of the choices that we're making now, right? And yeah, healthcare is very, very costly, right? So it's the choices that we make about our food and the choices that we make about everything else now, and how we communicate to our children. What are we feeding our children? And I really think that when we say we value family and we value health, then is it being reflected in the choices we make financially? And in this, with regards to this conversation, it translates into our food. Are we actually nourishing them? Are we actually cooking a homemade meal rather than drive-through? And are we actually encouraging them and putting that variety of foods on the table and showing them, oh, this is organic, no pesticides, it's good for us, it's better for us? It's like, are we having these conversations? And is this what we're modeling for our children? Because they're going to do what we do.
And so when you talk about money in your group, so you have you're a money coach, and you're actually running a program right now for for women all over Latin America who have joined your course, and etc. There's a lot of different conversations and money blocks, right? People have blocks to money. They don't feel worthy of it. They push it away. They don't let it in. They're afraid to talk to their husbands about it. They don't know how to talk to their husbands about it, etc. When you talk about budgets, which, oh, by the way, I mean, I was thinking about having this conversation with you this morning, and I have to admit, like, I don't know what a budget is. I've tried to live by a budget. It makes me crazy. But I have a feeling and a sense of, oh, I think we spent enough this month, or, I'm going to do, not do this month, or not do that. You could just, I feel where I'm at. I can feel where I'm at. But do you teach budgets? And if you do, what percentage of a budget goes to food? What do you say?
So I'll tell you this
on that.
Two-part answer. Number one is, of course, we do talk about budgets. I don't call them budgets because I just think the word, it's like saying diet. I think the word is just doesn't reflect what really should be the relationship that we should be having with our numbers. It's like, oh, now I have to restrict myself, right? Whereas the way I approach it, and the way I like women to approach it, is have a plan so that you could tell your money with intentionality where it needs to go, right? That is really what should be happening. Rather than you reacting to your money, you are very intentional, and going back to the choices we make and the values that we allow our money to support. We're very intentional.
Tell me how that plays out, like in grocery shopping. How does that play out?
Right. So that's the second part of the answer is, every family is very individual. So especially we see in a pandemic, now we might be cooking a lot more, and we might find that our grocery budget went up, but for a really good reason. So wouldn't that be something that you'd appreciate, that you're actually nourishing your family and spending more time giving them? Because it's not just the food, it's the environment. It's like, you understand, it's what you teach, what happens in the kitchen, right? And that's a better allocation of your money than perhaps mindlessly spending it in other things. So I never tell people you should have, there's an exact formula, and you should not be spending more than $500 a week or $1,000 a month or 2,000, whatever it may be. No, first of all, every family is different. And my budget in food is probably higher than somebody else because I buy kosher food and I buy organic food, although not always, I will admit. So it's definitely much higher. But does it mean that yours is wrong and mine is right? No, it's what is your intention behind that financial allocation, right? So for me, Judaism is extremely important. So it's a non-negotiable, and I don't like that's how my money's going to go. It has to be kosher food, fruits and vegetables, organic. All of that is extremely important because I care about the health of my family and the education I give my children around food, right? So of course I'm going to invest in that. So I think what I teach is think very carefully. Let's put pen to paper. What is most important to you? And now make the choice based on that. Be intentional about how you're spending or allocating, it's a better word, your money.
I love it. I love it. So if you had any parting words for women, because, well, actually we have a lot of men. So I wonder if you would be able to do this. I mean, would you be able to craft something? Because when you speak, which is what I love and adore so much about you, is that you are never, although you are very cerebral, there's no doubt about that. But when you speak, you are not cerebral at all. You are heart-centered and you are always speaking from the heart. This is why people listen to you, because they can feel that whether or not they practice what you practice, or whether or not that they can feel that you are speaking genuinely from your heart. I love that. And I really have to say, Mary McConville this morning and yesterday morning in her challenge, took her a while to get down. I could feel the steps, but when she got here, man, she just lit it up. So if she's watching, I just want to call her out. But from your heart, what say you to those people? And we have lots of men that actually tune in every day at 3 p.m. for Dinner with Nanny, Bubby, because they are the cooks of the family.
I love it.
So what say you to them about how they are, what words of wisdom from your heart do you have for them about their cooking and their money, and how do you bring those two together?
I'll use your words. Bring your heart into your kitchen, bring your heart into your financial decisions, and you'll be okay. But you have to be really clear of where your heart is. You have to be very clear what you stand for. And so when we give this to ourselves and to our children, we're giving them the best gift. When your children know that you've made certain financial decisions because this is what our family holds dear and this is what's important, right? That is a really powerful financial education. The same thing with what happens in your kitchen. When your children see that you take the time and the energy to cook for them, and it doesn't have to be the perfect meal. It doesn't mean you have to be Martha Stewart. It's just your presence. It's your knowing what everybody's taste buds are. I have 4 kids, and some love cucumbers and some don't, and some love avocado, right? And like that kid knowing, I cut you your cucumbers that you love so much, right? I made you guacamole, it's fresh, and here's the cilantro. Would you want to chop it or should I chop it, right? These things, that's bringing your heart into that. And what would you guys like to eat this week? And let's make a menu together, right?
Right.
That's called nourishment, and that's bringing your heart into it.
Right, because you're not only nourishing their body, but you're really nourishing their soul, and you are emotionally nourishing them. In that, you see them, right? They just want to be seen.
Totally. And I want to tell you something, Marla. I grew up with 2 working parents. I didn't have the luxury that my kids have, that I'm home. I work from home. I'm pretty present. I've always been there for them at 3:45 or 2, depending on their age when they came home. There was always a warm food on the table. My parents were both working parents, which meant they didn't come home till 6 or 7. However, there was always a homemade meal. And I don't even know how they managed to do such a thing, but my parents always cooked and we always sat at the table every night. And I remember I married an American and nothing about like, but culturally, when I met my husband, I had known that in his house, they only sat together on Friday nights for the Jewish Sabbath. I sat with my family every single night of the week. And so that was one of those things like, oh, but how do we want to do it? And so obviously it's become my way, but not to say that there's anything wrong with once a week, but the point is be there for each other, make it a nurturing environment, make them love their food and being that. I mean, I feel like everything happens in the kitchen.
It does, because, you know, really the heart is centered. The heart of a family is centered in the kitchen. And when your kids open the door and walk in and smell something, these are the smells that they remember. That is what comfort food actually is. It's the comfort food are the smells, the aromas, and the taste that you remember from childhood that warmed your heart. And food really does do that. And I want to say this to all of my gatherers. We call them gatherers that gather with Nanny Bubby during, you know, dinner with Nanny Bubby at 3 p.m. is that, you know, cooking is intuitive. You allow yourself to just know what the next right thing to do is. It's instinctual. And you can never make a mistake, because even the mistake you make when you're cooking sometimes turns out to be the best meal you ever made. I mean, you hear all kinds of stories about how when I put the turkey in and I forgot this and this happened and that happened, and then, you know, and it was the best turkey they ever had. Now they make it that way every year. And when it's really, 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 really bad, your kids will laugh about that with you long into their adulthoods and say, as their kids are growing up, well, let's hope I never make lemon chicken for my kids like you did, Mom. It was really bad. You know, right. These are the things that make memories for your families. And this is my purpose, is to bring that to everyone. So I really appreciate you being here today, Yael. You are amazing and I love you dearly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. I could talk to you forever.
I could talk to you forever. I want to talk to you forever. So we close. Colette actually started this, but we close on the count of 3 by saying, do you know what we say when we close?
Bread loved like butter.
Yes, yes. Oh. So ready? To all of you, 1, 2, 3. Spread love like
butter.
On Zoom, it's hard to sync that up. Thank you, Yael.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you Sunday. So grateful. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. I'm so sorry that I could not see your text and answering and everything that you were saying, but I'll look back at it when it goes and post onto Facebook, and I'll answer everybody then. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.